Hello, Nirav.
Hey, good evening, Panos.
Good morning.
How's the weather in Ireland?
I'm struggling with this button here. It's okay. We have had 2 days of rain and otherwise mild weather, so not bad.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
How common is rain right now? Is it like the rain season already?
Well, there's no such thing as a rain season. It's like all over, right? Yeah, it's not like it comes and goes, but we have been exceptionally dry the past months.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
same for us in Oregon. We usually
Okay.
don't get a whole lot of rain in the summers, and this time it's like zero rain, no rain at all.
Yeah.
Like from May to September, September we start getting rain, but this time even September has been dry. Yeah. Thankfully,
Yeah, I have this joke for the Irish that in the Greek language there is a word for the first rain of September, right? In Ireland, there
yeah.
cannot be such a word. The first rain, there's no such a thing, right?
I guess when do you start the timer? Huh? It's always
Yeah.
No, same here, man. I mean, from October to May, I don't invite anybody to come to Oregon because they will never come back. You always come in the summer, guys. And they love it, and they always want to come back.
No. On the other hand, like the weather, it's mild all year long in Ireland. You
It's
don't
not that
expect
cold.
any. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
It's neither cold or hot, so
that's
not
good.
bad. Yeah. Hi, Sammy.
I mean,
Good morning,
yeah.
Tim.
Good morning, Sammy.
Good morning.
We were just talking about weather. Hey, where are you guys
Sure.
staying when you come in? I got, what did I get? Which I don't know how to meet up with everybody. Yes. I'm staying at the Marriott, I think.
Yeah, same here.
Same here? Okay. Good.
Yeah. Probably we will start a WhatsApp so that we can connect each other
Yeah, that's a good idea.
like last year.
Oh, you guys had that last year? Okay. Good.
Yeah, right. That is because people are kind of hanging around. If you want to meet and sit down, we can.
Yeah, at the
Same.
very least, we should grab lunch or something, or dinner or something.
Right.
Yes, that's a good question to check our schedule again and see, except for the days that we have like some common event to do some dinner or something within this team.
Yeah. So on the 16th, 17th, right? Or when are you guys coming?
I'm coming
I think
Monday late night, 9:30 or something.
Okay.
So Tuesday.
I think I'm
after
coming on
Tuesday.
Sunday, so I'll be all days.
Yeah. So I'm planning to be there Monday. I've not booked it. So we could, I think if you guys are going to be there on Tuesday, we can see, let us fix up a time. Last year, we were trying to fix up a time and we were not able to get a time to go there. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Yogesh and Changachi. And we see Rick, new participants here today. Maybe can you give a quick intro from your side?
Yes. This is Eric from Inventec. I'm just trying to keep up with what's going on with these OCP calls.
Okay.
Try to learn something new.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks. Is this a weekly or bi-weekly call, by the way?
It's a weekly call now.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for joining. So we have agenda like any opens today before we jump on to the main two topics that we want to cover. If there are no opens, let us jump onto the life cycle management white paper what Nirav is trying to put together.
Yep.
After the review, I think we should take the content and fold into a presentation. Maybe let's spend some time to review that material, and Nirav, I'm hoping next week you will get that presentations ready, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So it's, again, to reiterate, I don't know if you guys can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just to reiterate, the paper is right here. I think quite a few people looked at it, as far as I can tell. Thank you for a couple of people for going through the summary and the introduction and kind of doing grammar checks and fixing a few things. Really appreciate that. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's 90% ready. I have filled out most of the content. I need to fix the grammar and everything, which I will do soon. And then I think I just need to read through it again and call it done. What is missing is where I need help is the conclusion, and we need to kind of talk through it a little bit, and then so talk through it and kind of figure it out. So just to reiterate, right? So the layout of the paper is this, right? So we start with an introduction. The introduction talks about the motivation behind hyperscale data centers and cloud, the exponential growth, and so on and so forth. And then I think to contend with this growing demand, I think what we are saying here is that OCP has made great progress in terms of system and rack scale standardization. But when it comes to bringing all this together at a aggregated level, at a data center level, the scale of the problem requires a more thorough approach to standardization. And having said that, we believe we need to do a walk down the life cycle of a hyperscale data center and analyze all the phases, and at the same time do a kind of a ground up from a device to a system to a rack scale to an entire data center, kind of level up the data center and kind of meet these two things together. Again, I reiterate here that the intention. So when we talk about phases, we are breaking them down into stages. Again, those stages, the intent of stages and the phases is not to give a rigid life cycle, but to just identify gaps in standardization in terms of data representation. So that's where the introduction is. And then also in the later part of the introduction, I talk about why standardize, right? Why bother doing this? And so that's where the data model representation will come in. We talk about an example data model where some of this data can be aggregated easily. So I have a diagram for that as well. And talking about why an aggregated view will be useful at the data center level, and how an individual device model will get aggregated and get represented at a data center level, and why that will answer some of the questions that we want to answer. Again, I think I mentioned it somewhere that it's not that the industry is not doing it. I think the problem today is the vendor logic has to take into account various vendors, device vendors, and define different versions within the vendor. So like even if the vendor is the same for a storage device, different versions come in, and because of that, the data model is different, and as a result, the vendor logic has to take into account some of these aggregate translation to a common language before it can aggregate it. I think what we want to do here is standardize the view from the vendor so that the logic can focus on aggregation and not have to do language translation. So that's the idea with the data model. and this is the example data model. Again, I need to kind of fix this a little bit more, but that's where we are at. So this is how the layout of the paper is. And coming back to the phases, here are the phases. I renamed the first phase as acquisition. I don't know if anybody has objection to that. I think the naming matters a lot. So I'm focusing a whole lot on that. And I think that's the biggest feedback I need, is to walk through these phases, look through the names, and make sure that everybody is agreeing to some of the names that I'm using. Like we talked about onboarding, production, end of life. I think we agreed that those are kind of good names, but I've been struggling with the first part, which is acquisition. The phase here with acquisition, it really means we acquire a real estate, we construct a data center on top of it, we acquire utilities, water, power, electricity, network utilities. We source the systems that we are going to use using DCSCM, DCMHS. Work streams are helping with standardization of those, and that's kind of the acquisition phase. I think the story with acquisition, and I don't want to focus more on this, but the story with acquisition is that I think the OCP has done a great job. Like when it comes to the sustainability work group, the modular data center work group, the data center, which one is the other one? The data center server project and the data center facilities project. I think there are a bunch of projects that are focused on all of these things. And as a result, as far as I can tell, there are no gaps in this initial stage. Then stop me anytime, guys. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
I
run
think
through.
Mike, go ahead, Hannes, you raised your hand first. Yeah.
I
If you have something short, Sami, yes, go ahead. But
Yeah.
we have it like longer.
Okay, quick on regarding the interfaces, right? Maybe good to put a picture like from node level to data, rack level to data center, right?
Correct.
What is the interfaces available? People can visualize it, right?
Yeah, that picture is missing. I think Scott is helping me with that one. I think he has something. I just haven't integrated it into the paper. Yeah. So Scott is working on that. He's helping me with that. I appreciate that, Scott. So that picture I will put side by side here. Go ahead.
So Niraj, for these 4 terms, is this talking about a data center or components within a data center? Because I've seen it done as not so much acquire, but deploy, operate, and decommission. But that's more at a system level as opposed to a data center level.
I think it should apply to both. I think when you say deploy, it's really onboarding. Operate means production, and decommission is end of life. I think those are the words that can be replaced. Acquisition is just about acquiring those systems. So it's typically not in the life cycle of the systems. So except acquisition, I think this should flow on very nicely at a system level and at the same time at the data center level.
Okay, so would you mind changing those terms, or would anyone mind changing those terms? Because those are the more common terms that I've seen when talking about data centers.
Yeah, it will be good to use deployment and not onboarding. I agree with you. That's what it is. Deployment is like very widely used. Panos,
This is what I was trying to like counter argue here.
Go ahead, Panos.
I think your mic is not coming through.
Sorry. I pressed the button. So if we're talking about the overall data center with all the components, including the building, including the facilities of the data center, then I don't think we can do the split between the acquisition and the onboarding like in this current format. So I would mostly envision it as a matter of procurement, like anything that does not involve physical equipment or facilities or racks or anything yet. So it's done on paper. It's done, on the design phase. Then you have another phase, which we could call it deployment or even construction. Like that phase could involve construction, and we cut the line between anything that does not have a physical substance and something that starts being physical. and that would be construction of that data center, preparation of the facilities, on like deployment, as we say, onboarding of the compute equipment of the servers, like, and I would put a split there.
I see. Yeah, I think what you're saying is, instead of acquisition, we want to. I think I want to split the factors separately and make it design, deploy, and what was the third?
So design and procure.
Okay.
Like you need to have a plan. You need to communicate the plan. You need to involve your vendors, get all that thing, and down to what we are saying. The life cycle. Starts there at the moment you have your purchase orders or whatnot. But then when you go to the phase that you have a physical things getting physical, then I think it's worth to be in a different phase.
Understood. So this would be the more like the pre-physical phase, and the deployment will be more of the physical phase. And then third one.
So you want that to be operate?
Operate. Okay. Thank you.
And then you want to shorten deployment to deploy. And just may have them all nouns, all verbs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense. Operate and decommission. That's a verb too. Yes, makes sense.
The first one, in addition to acquisition, design procure is good. And how about the planning?
For the second one, or
The first one, I think acquisition.
Before even
First one, we need to make a plans, right? Planning, yeah.
Yeah, I think the same makes sense. Okay. So like have 5 stages in there. Okay.
And Nirav, you said this is applicable for both, right? It's
it should be, yeah.
Right, okay.
It's generic enough that it should apply to both. All right, I will reword these. I don't think the layout of the paper changes that much, but appreciate the feedback on this.
Okay, so when you just combine the design procurement together, planning design should be the combined, and procurement could be the next step.
I see what you're saying. Is that okay with everybody? So I think what you're saying is, I that's what I had in acquisition is planning and design, and then procure and deploy could be like that. So we still have four phases, but design, is that okay with everybody?
Yeah. I would dare to say that the phases are not distinct. Like they could be an overlap. That's
correct.
While you're designing, while you're procuring some end servers, you're still building, let's say, the data center. That does not exclude one another, right? But in other wise, bucketing your operations, bucketing the work that you do to build and operate a data center could fall into these categories.
I agree. And that's why I don't want to I don't want to, the buckets, they may be amiable and flexible for individual data center operators or providers. But I think the focus here is to find gaps, right? So yeah, I think this is just a layout to show that we haven't missed anything. We have covered all the nooks and corners of this process. And yes, and some things may flow into this, some things may flow into this, some others may decide that I don't want to skip, I want to completely skip this and just go into design and procure. I have the planning nailed down already, and there is no such thing as standardization for planning. So I guess
you can keep it separate and probably put some preamble words. There may be overlap depending on.
Yeah, I already have some of those, with respect to the overlap.
Okay.
I will actually, let me add another comment saying, specifically calling out, I didn't say the word overlap, so it's a good word. Overlap between phases. So I will put that in there, and then jumping into the sub phases. I think we talked about the first one for onboarding. Which we are now calling deploy, and so we have the configuration phase, we have the conformance and certification phase. The configuration phase, I think there is some standardization when it comes to the specific configurations like security, storage, server, firmware. But how does this all come together? I think that's where it's missing. That's a gap today. Again,
Just
it may not be.
one more thing even before going there, right? What is the at scale problems that we need to consider? Do we want to put it later, or we want to put it early, so that we can connect the dots on at scale problems, right? Even though it's LCM, I'm trying to connect at scale. How do we connect the at scale here?
So the gaps are the problem, is my understanding, or is that what you, or we want to solve? I guess so. Okay, I can flip the paper. I think what I did is I identified the gaps and then talked about why filling those gaps is important. I could start with, hey, these are the problems, and the answer to why it's filling those is in this flow and specific data models. I could flip the sections 1 and 2 and say start with this, but then I think the problem is the life cycle part doesn't show up until section 2, which is also a problem. So that's why I struggled with this one. I do hint at problems here within individual sections, right? It's not like you just jump, you have to wait till section 2. I call out, I refer section 3 and section 2 and 3 and call out specific areas. And within this, so starting with problems like here, the problem is, like I said before, individual standardizations exist, but I think having a common configuration, right, which can, a definition of a common configuration at a device system and a rack scale level will help at the aggregation logic and the representation at the data center level, at the at scale level, to kind of know what configurations exist within that domain. So that's the takeaway that I was trying to provide from here. So that's kind of hinting at the problem, but not explicitly stating it.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking for like heterogeneous kind of systems in the data center, right? How do we bring that problems to amplify, right?
Again, my goal with this paper was to say that, hey, the data is important, right? Getting that data out is important. How you use that data, right? So basically what I mean by that is, if you have a data center which has different devices, multiple systems with different configurations, like you were saying, how do I represent it so that the aggregation logic and all that can take that into account?
So that may be that section 2's
job, right? So
all
I'm saying is, hey, in this section, what I'm saying is, hey, you have device level configuration, but system level configuration, which brings it together, is missing. And we need to bring that out. We need to standardize that so that a data center knows exactly how many configurations do I have and what are the kinds of configuration and all that. So that's the problem statement I'm bringing out. Now, how that gets used, I hesitate to go into that because that might be different for different customers or different providers, right? So that's the problem statement I'm bringing out. So I think if you take nothing out of this, is the biggest thing we want to take out of this paper is, how do I represent these varied, like you have millions of systems and each system may have thousands of devices. So at the end, you might end up with billions of devices in an at-scale database. How do you represent these systems, right? So that the data center knows what's going on in the data center, right? That's the big takeaway. Yeah. So and same goes with conformance and certification. We need to identify, and that could, again, in a heterogeneous data center, that there could be different systems which have different requirements. Then you have like these bodies, which are the government bodies, open source bodies, standardization bodies. Data center providers have their own certification processes. At what stage are we in that data center with different systems around? Okay. We just need to represent that so that the aggregation logic can actually aggregate that information and provide a unique like a status on what your conformance status or your certification status at the data center level is. Validation is
where is the network coming into here? We don't see any talk about network at all, right?
Configuration. I missed it here. Yes, you're right. Actually, network establishment of network is in this, and I think that is what I said is that's even the representation of the network and how it's being brought together is very well documented and very well standardized at the OCP level. There are multiple work groups already working on that. So there are no opens there, is what I represented. But when it comes to configuration, conformance, validation, even there is no such thing as a validation state in today, right? And when it comes to orchestration and ramp, that's the same problem. Is I think the problems that we want to solve here is, hey, what is my ramp status at a system level, right? Is this system gone through conformance, certification, and validation, and all the check marks are there? Can I start ramping it? That's the first question. The second question you want to answer is, what is your ramp scale, right? What your ramp scale should be. What percentage, the velocity of the ramp may be unique to a data center. So you want to identify devices at every stages of ramp and have sub ramp stages and like bring up the data center with maybe 100 devices, then 1,000 devices, so on and so forth. And that has to be represented somewhere. Where am I at this point? Have I brought up 1,000 devices, 1,000, 1 million devices? What have I done? So those are the kind of things that orchestration and ramp should represent. Sorry, you had a question?
Yeah, so does it make sense? I think last week John put together the OCP's different charter interfaces. Maybe do you want to integrate some of those elements here?
I was not there last week. Is there a way to I can get that?
John, what do you think?
I'll work with John. I'll work with John offline. Yeah. I'll get those and I'll integrate those. Yes, that's good feedback. I mean, I have that. Work with
Does this paper cover the design and construction of the physical data center, like the walls and how thick of the walls and what type of material and whether insulation be used?
Yeah,
and that kind of it.
I think I refer to it, but I think there is a work project called Data Center Facilities, and then within that project, I think there is a facilities recognition program, and the Ready Coal Site Assessment program, which provide you those kind of informations already, and that's already standardized today.
But that's for regular data centers, right? You guys have carved out something called hyperscale data centers. And
right.
So you may have to work with those guys.
Exactly.
But what they have may not be applicable to you guys.
I think yes. So there are two levels of effort that we need to do, right? And I agree with both, right? What John said. I think for where the projects already exist, we need to go and influence them. So when it comes to like, I talk about what is a bug, right? What is a defect? And so there is a hardware fault management work group already there, but I think for it to be aggregated in a way that it can be used at scale, we need to have a unique representation there, and we need to work with that work group to kind of build that in. I think my focus in this conversation has been, and this is a long paper, so I do call that out, saying we need to work with these. I identify the work groups that we have to work with, and I kind of call that we have to actively get involved in those work groups to identify those specific items and feed them into those work groups. So that's one part. And I think where standards exist, we need to influence them. Where standards don't exist is the ones that I'm calling out right now.
I think the other thing, I think John has a nice picture. I think once you talk to him, you'll find it. The thing is, out of this, right, we need to say like, where are the gaps, right? Maybe we can be a running list, right? At the end, we should be able to conclude with these are the gaps that need to be addressed.
Right. So I think what I'm calling out is configuration, certification, validation, orchestration, ramp. These are all gaps.
No, we don't want to say all gaps, right? Specifically, we want to call out the specific gaps, right? Because there are work groups and mechanism exist. it'll be good if we can really like come up with the specific gaps.
Yeah, that's where I need help. It's like that's why I've been struggling with the conclusion.
Right.
Right. So I think this is where I need help from everybody on this forum, and so I will
Maybe
set up.
put a command or line item that we need to work through to kind of harvest all the gaps. Maybe all of us maybe should take an year to think through and see like what we really want to conclude with, right?
Action item for the whole team to identify specific gaps, like the one that was just called out about like how thick the wall should be and all that.
Either gaps or an improvement, right? Maybe there is a we all feel like they need to be improved something, right?
With focus on actual.
Right.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of like things that I think are clubbing, like physical, like infrastructure and like facilities, like data center, like orchestration and RAM. Typically, we build the physical things and then bring the servers in.
No,
Right.
yeah, I hear you. I think I
And
kind of went too fast here.
Yeah,
But-
no, because the real estate construction, utilities, like some of them have a very like longer like tail, because at hyper scale, we basically have to build power plants to power it, right? And that's actually the real issue, or have availability of power. But a lot of those planning happens much before we finish building, so that by the time, but it's also time is money, so we basically like correctly overlap it. So when the machine, like when the data center like building comes up, power also will come up soon.
I
Right?
hear you. I think this is the problem with calling it a life cycle. I think the perception is one stage has to end for another stage to begin, and that's not the intent. And that's what I want to clarify with the overlap portion is that that's not the intention of this paper to call out, hey, this has to finish before you start this. This is just a laundry list. Think of it as
maybe
laundry.
the other way of probably representing is there may be a building or data center physical life cycle other than systems in there, right?
Yep.
And you could have a island of systems, a rack or systems that have its own life cycle. We need to pictorially represent what that means, right? Then people can zoom in to that particular area and say like, hey, now I have a new systems. Maybe it's only storage systems, right? Or maybe another compute systems with different things, right?
Yes.
Have the ability, yeah, I agree. Have the ability to zoom into specifics and have individual life cycles within each levels.
Right. So then it becomes a node level life cycle or a rack level life cycle. We can zoom it further on, right?
Me and Scott, we met like a couple of times. We have been trying to exactly do that, and we've been struggling with it, but we'll keep working on it. I think he has some ideas. I just haven't incorporated them. Yeah. I don't know, Scott, if Scott is around, if he wants to talk to it.
So if not for Scott, let me raise the scope creep alert here and warn you not to try to solve all the data center problems or all the life cycle, all the little details of a data center, building a data center in one paper. Rather, I think we should focus of what aspects of the environment of the real state of the data center would affect the operation of the servers, and say, what do we need to do so that our point of view of the servers and the operation of the servers is aware of all the other conditions that are outside of a rack and would affect or need to be taken into account when, let's say, servicing a rack of servers, right? Yeah, if we have to do with power, the management of power, or the availability of real estate, of maintenance of the data hall, things like that, how we can have a system that can integrate with the other solutions, not try to build an end-to-end system that will do everything.
That's exactly the intent. Yeah, thanks, Panos, for summarizing it well. Yeah. I think Panos. Yeah, that's my intent with this. I'm not trying to boil the ocean. I think I can't. Appreciate grounding it. Yeah. So that's all I had. Thank you for all the feedback, and please keep looking through it and keep sending me feedback online. And I will, if needed, I think reach out to me and I can set up some calls, specific calls offline. Like me and Scott have been meeting every week. I can add or add, or we can have separate conversations as well. But whatever works, let me know. Please reach out, and I can work on the schedules and figure out like inputs and everything.
I think a couple of things on logistics, right? OCP is asking for the presentations due 28th or 29th. I don't know exactly remember the data. I can send it out. So we do need to get the presentations ready. I think 29th Friday, right?
29th Friday.
Yeah. So given urgency, I'm trying to put is we need to get the presentations ready, and internally, like even if you get it ready, there is a process within each companies, right? Given our names are there, people want to make sure that gets approved before we can say it's we are okay to release it out, right? I would say maybe you should try to focus early next week to get the paper ready so that we can get that to be shared internally within the teams, companies to get the approval, right?
Yep, makes sense.
So if we can target by next Wednesday, if we can close that, maybe if you want to call for a separate meeting, there's a plan for it.
I think I agree. A separate meeting would be really helpful.
So when do you guys want it? Like, or if we, yeah.
Is 1 hour from now
Tuesday?
on Wednesday? Tuesday is perfect. I think this time Tuesday might be perfect for me if that works for everybody.
Does it work for most of you here?
Tuesday wouldn't work for me this time.
How about an hour from now?
I could Tuesday.
Yeah.
I can do 10 o'clock. Yeah.
I have a conflict. How about the Wednesday? Wednesday, you guys have a conflict?
I do have a conflict on Wednesday, so my vote is for Tuesday, if possible.
Let's see.
I want to do 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it works.
8 works for me too.
But I'll have to skip. I have a meeting from 8:30 to 10. But I can do it offline. Like you guys can meet, and I can.
Okay, I think there's probably go with the 8. Then, if needed, I think we need to again sync up before the Friday. I think there's.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll set up a separate call with George at 10 o'clock, and I'll get his feedback. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. Any additional comments, or you're okay to move to the next topic? So a couple of things I think we need to close. John, we are asking whether we want to, when we are transitioning our FTI to hardware management, whether we want to have a work stream or sub project. Can you give us delta?
Again, you don't make that determination. It's part of the discussion with the project leads.
Okay.
The difference that between a work stream and a sub-project is a sub-project is governed by the OCP governance document you will find on the website. It describes how it is constructed and built and what has to happen. Work streams, however, are not only mentioned in the governance document, and otherwise it is silent. So in my mind, work streams are very easier to instantiate and create. And so we attached work streams directly to the main project for the hardware management. It has a profile work stream directly attached to it. It also has REST API. It has 3 sub-projects. The sub-projects can create work streams, and it's created fairly simply. Hardware fault management has the FM work stream. It's fairly easy. So on my mind, it's a matter of what a work stream is a working body that wants to publish something, but isn't quite ready, and has found a momentum within the community, and a sub-project has. So if you go to fault management, right, there's dozens of people in that meeting. My recommendation is a work stream, because you guys have been working kind of off on your own for quite a while, right? And so now you're only just opening up. So start as a work stream, see if you can build momentum, and then you can always come back and say, well, we want to be a sub-project now. We've got enough people behind us. So that's my recommendation, is for in that diagram that I showed last week, that to create you guys as a work stream.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody, any other comments here? If not, regarding the charter, I think, let me see whether I have on a screen I can say. Is able to see this?
Yes.
So this is the one we presented last year, even before last year's as a purpose. What we said is we want to create a comprehensive at-scale model, and I think that's some of the work that we are doing, right? Telemetry data sharing model, and also the IMA, as well as some of the white paper. We are kind of trying to kind of define that model, and how are we going to address the problems, right? And the standardizing interfaces, we are also again doing on the data center telemetry sharing model that we are trying to standardize to fit into that model above.
So Sammy,
Yeah.
so Sammy, I'm in the process of responding to your email. And so one thing I want to say is the difference between a purpose and a charter.
Right.
So a charter just defines a domain or space in which you guys can operate without conflicting with anyone else. Okay, and once you have your charter, that working body can define its own purpose, its own deliverables, and so on and so forth. So that's why I don't want to take this purpose and make it a charter, because it's not broad enough for me, right? It's got to be very broad, so we don't come and bug you at all unless you stray from your charter. So what I had suggested, and what I was sending back, is the charter for the cloud service model is lifecycle service for hyperscale data center. And my corollary was, you guys have not defined for me what a hyperscale or fleet is. Is it 10,000 systems? Is it 100,000 nodes? What is it? What is going to differentiate this thing you call hyperscale or fleet from any other data center? And that way you can go to data center facility guys and say, hey, you guys have this readiness thing. It's great for these small data centers, but we've created this thing called hyper data center, and that's what we want to go talk about. And that's how you avoid conflict with the data center facility guys, to say, you guys do great work. You just haven't dealt with this scale of data center. The second is, let me complain. There's only one more point.
Go ahead.
And the other is the life cycle, right? Includes design, procure, deploy, operate, and decommission. And that defines the space that you guys are allowed to go operate in. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, yeah.
So I think I completely agree with you, John, for what you're saying. I think there is not one body that deals with all of these four phases. I think that's where the problem is today, is that there are specific areas at each. So I think it's more, and that is fine for us. That may be fine for a smaller data center because of the challenges of scale doesn't exist there. But you're right. We should define what a scale looks like. What in numbers, what it means. That's fair. That's a fair comment. But I don't think we are comparing ourselves to anyone, right? I don't think we are saying the gaps are in one area and we are kind of an alternate to this one specific area. I think what we're saying is the gaps are everywhere because nobody's looking at it at a scale level. Is that
exactly? And that's why you want to carve out this space. Say, no one's looking over here. We want to look over here, right? Give us that choice to go do that.
Perfect. I think you agree with that, right? So that's good. So I think we can
regarding the numbers of what we want to call like hundreds of thousands or millions of system or
anything above hundreds of thousands is what my recommendation would be. But
then I think we also kind of said we want to fit a small and a medium as part of our thing, right? So it can be span across small to large, right?
I think the problem with the scale, I think the good thing about a scale solution is it applies, if you can solve a problem for hundreds of thousands of systems, that directly applies to a smaller, I mean, it's not mutually exclusive, right? Now, Panos disagrees.
But I think
I disagree.
The decision. I think we get the decision of whether we optimize for a large data center or we optimize for a small data center. You guys, your work will be to optimize for the big data center, the hyperscale data center. And if you can degenerately, if this model degenerately works for small data center, fine. We don't care, right? But that's not your target, guys.
So I think the question here is to just put some number behind the word and say at this current point in time, at 2023, what do we consider to be hyper, right? And I said, like, let's put some arbitrary number like 100,000 servers in a data center. That means the data center belongs to the hyper category, right? The solution that we need for such a data center goes way beyond the solution that could cover a smaller 10,000 server installation, right? But the other way around, we can operate a smaller data center with that solution, but it could also be an overkill. So it doesn't mean that like somebody that has 10 servers in their basement can work with the same kind of solutions. Perhaps they could work with a few of the technologies which we provide, but not everything.
Everything may not be needed. Yeah, that makes sense. It might be an overkill. Yeah, that's right.
So do you want to go with 100,000 or we were hundreds of thousands?
We could word it as like in the order of hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
And above.
Yeah. No, you don't need to say about it. Yeah. It includes that, right? Yeah. John, any other things that we should add based on the things that you're seeing here?
No, I think with those statements, that kind of covers the entire space.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. I think that clarity gives that a bigger umbrella to operate on it. Any other comments, question on the transition side? We will come back once we have the meeting with the leads and the ACs there.
Yeah, this looks good, man.
Okay.
This looks great.
So another couple of things we want to do next week, maybe just to get that agenda for next week, right? So we want to get this paper completed. Like we talked, we need to get the final version that we can bless at the end of next week. So Anil and George, you guys, your papers are kind of ready to go, right?
Almost. We'll give it. Yeah.
Okay.
We have one more meeting today. We'll finalize it hopefully.
Sure. Good. Another.
Anil,
yeah.
Do ping me because I have some of your diagrams that you wanted.
Oh, nice. Can you just
I was
share with me
working on it.
Panos offline?
Yes,
George
yes.
and I
Like
meeting.
ping me,
Yeah.
so that I give that to you before George's meeting.
Yeah. Hey, actually, you have to give it to me too. So I think I reused your diagram and changed it a bit, but I didn't have the source.
Okay, yes. If you like talk with Anila, like we will sync offline and get
thanks.
the diagrams
Thank
polished.
you.
And third update is we got the panel members. We thank you, George. We added you, and also from Microsoft side, we are able to get Rob able to join the panel for the MLL discussions. He's one of the
Chapel?
yes
Simon?
from Chapel. Yes,
Chapel. Good.
check in. Yes, I didn't had a chance to circle back with you. I had a chance to talk to him, and he said he agreed. He
Good.
can come to the panel, but yeah, he has a different view, so it will be good to kind of get his view to the panel. So I think what we will do next week, after this review of these two papers, not papers, the presentations, we should start spending some time on what specific questions that we want to kind of target for the panel. You know, our audience will be a lot of surprises there, but for a panel, we want to get some heads-up questions ready. We will spend some time next week to kind of go over that. I will try to put some straw man for us to review. Regarding the registrations, all of you who had a presentation or panel, you already probably got a code for registration. So Chuck, Winnie, on your side, are you able to register or are you able to make it right?
Yeah. Can you send me the code, Sammy?
Well, yeah.
Let's talk about it offline.
Okay.
I will be there.
Okay. And also we will sync up on a meeting for us to sync up time probably next week so that we can log in some time if he has other commitments on other days, right? Okay, any other questions, comment before we close today? If not, thank you, team. We'll look forward to meeting next week.
All right, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.